人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际。落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际。落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界， 去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极地来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心、弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极地来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心、弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁， 没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠， 让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际。落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极地来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。 关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视，守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际，落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构性问题，同时结合民间的力量，推广人权教育，积极的来跟国际人权机构交流，深化台湾对民主和自由的重视。我们的使命是成为国家的良心，弱势人民的依靠，让人权成为温暖的力量。让我们一起来促进社会正义的实现。
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。当你想要玩乐，就要开心地笑出来。即 即使与众不同，你也可以过着同样的生活。没有人能决定你应该是什么模样，没有差别待遇，没有歧视。无论你是谁，没有人能夺走属于你的文化与传统。无论你身在何方，不分国界，都应该受到公平合理的对待。都能得到人权公约的基本保障。国家人权委员会持续落实人权公约，关注儿童权利，让儿少的声音成为人权改革的动力。关心身心障碍者权利，实现每一个人都能充分参与的环境。关注女性权利，消除一切基于性别及身份的歧视。守护移工权利，接轨国际。落实原住民族权利的保障，打造平等没有偏见的社会。
国家人权委员会的成立，是台湾走向世界，去承担和落实国际人权公约的重大里程碑。在未来，我们会持续关注弱势族群的人权状况，来厘清重大人权议题背后的结构。
各位现场所有的贵宾
Ladies and gentlemen, on-site and online, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us in Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights Trends Forum, organized by NHRC.
Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights Trends Forum。人工智慧 AI 的发展，近年来引发了全球。
The development of AI has generated a lot of attention. The human rights related risks have also generated a lot of discussions, especially when the availability of generative AI might compromise the human rights and basic rights of people. And in the meantime, AI has generated a lot of opportunities and changed the trends of industries. In order for us to learn from around the world and to learn from each other, to raise awareness of human rights in AI impact, we organize Artificial Intelligence and Human Rights Trends Forum to invite scholars and experts to join us to have comprehensive discussions. And this forum is also made available online. And we would like to introduce to you many of the important guests who join us in the forum.
Our guest here today, please give us a wave when your name is called upon. 首先，我们用掌声来欢迎主办单位国家人权委员会陈菊主任委员，请跟我们挥挥手，欢迎。
Madam Chen Ju, Chairperson of National Human Rights Commission.
那么接下来介绍的是今天担任主持任务的，首先是国家。
Next up, Vice Chairman of NHRC, Mr. 崇义蔡, Commissioner 傅忠诚, Commissioner 洪义章, I would also like to introduce to you the commissioners of NHRC, Commissioner Huang Yingzhang, Wang Youning, Commissioner Tian Qiujing, Commissioner Gao Yongcheng, Commissioner Ye Dahua. I would like to introduce to you Commissioner of the Control Yuan, Commissioner Lai. I would also like to introduce to you our presenters today. The first is Mr. Yichen Lin from Personal Data Protection Committee. Professor Shi Hongluo from Department of Communication, National Zhongzheng University. Professor Gan Zhenrong from Donghai University, Ms. Hou Yixiu from Taiwan AI Academy, Mr. Cui Jiawei from G0V, Professor Shi. We would also like to invite representatives from Australian Office Taipei.
马来西亚友谊及贸易中心 Malaysian Friendship Trade Center Taipei Representative Ms. Asnifa Ghani。好，接着是纽西兰商工办事处 New Zealand Commerce and Industry Office Taipei Deputy Representative Ms. Renee Bates。好，这里呢还要非常感谢我们今天踊跃派员参与的几个单位们。首先有德国在台协会 German Institute Taipei， 德国经济办事处 German Trade Office Taipei， 瑞士商务办事处 Trade Office of Swiss Industry and 驻台北印尼经济贸易代表处 Indonesian Economic and Trade Office to Taipei， 财团法人达赖喇嘛西藏宗教基金会国际特赦组织台湾分会 Access Now、FNF Global Innovation 国家资通安全研究院，以及国家人权委员会人权咨询顾问有刘敬新顾问和魏千峰顾问，我们非常感谢。
Consultant Mr. Liu, Consultant Ms. Qing, we are grateful for your participation. In the very beginning, we would like to invite Madam Chen Ju, Chairperson of National Human Rights Commission, to say a few words. Madam Chen, please. First of all, I'd like to extend my warmest welcome to dear Australian Human Rights Commissioner, Madam Lorraine Finley, who traveled from afar from Australia to join us in this very important forum. I'd also like to welcome the representative from Australian Office Taipei, as well as Ms. Berry from the Australian office, and all the distinguished scholars and experts, representatives from the NGOs, and representatives from foreign agencies based in Taiwan, as well as representatives from various organizations in Taiwan, and all the commissioners and representatives from Human Rights Commission, and my dearest friends from media, good morning. Ever since the establishment of NHRC, NHRC has been promoting the protection of human rights. We are actively promoting Taiwan's human rights practices to be aligned with the international practices. One of the most important trends is the protection of human rights under the impact of AI. AI has brought a lot of conveniences to our day-to-day life. It helps us improve our productivity. However, we also saw how it generates the impact on the less advantaged population. That is why this year we are seeing the human rights risks classification, which talks about the compromises or impact of AI on human rights. The first impact is false information or fake news, and for example, how it forms false opinions on behalf of human beings and compromise our ability to hold our opinions. And through generative AI, there might be fake news being generated or false information being generated, and the freedom of thoughts and the rights to express our opinions might be compromised, because without being able to judge whether the information is accurate or not, without proper information, they are not able to make informed decisions. Second of all, we believe that there is a risk for generative AI to replace human workers. Companies may replace workers with a generative AI, leading to an increase in unemployment, and some occupations will face a disproportionate risk of unemployment. The third is about deepfakes and sexual violence. Generative AI may be used to create images without consent. Deepfake can be used to produce sexual violence content, putting women and children at higher risks. Fourthly, children are not able to distinguish AI from real persons. Without proper media literacy skills, children are not able to discern if they are interacting with people or interacting with machines, which increases the risk of children being negatively affected. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights emphasizes that we need to recognize the human risks involved in generative AI and take immediate actions to prevent human rights being compromised. I know you're very much concerned about human rights, and you're concerned about the impact of generative AI on human rights. And this year, NHRC has conducted a questionnaire survey on college and university students this year. We analyzed 803 samples, and we discovered that about 75% of the respondents have provided the personal private information when interacting with the generative AI. They are worried that their personal information or content of their conversations might be collected or leaked to third parties. About 61.7% of the respondents noted that generative AI may produce incorrect, discriminatory, or inappropriate content, and they're concerned that this content may lead to the spreading of false information or radicalization of speech and opinions. Nearly 90% of the people believe that the development of generative AI should incorporate the opinions of different groups through multi-party dialogue. 80% of the people believe that there should be regulatory mechanisms or guidelines formulated. There is a college student replying in the questionnaire saying that generative AI has become an inevitable new technology. We have to accept it no matter what. However, the key is to let users clearly understand the advantages and disadvantages of this technology to ensure that everyone's human rights are protected. I believe that this comment reflects the expectations of the younger generation, and it also makes us more than aware of our responsibilities. On the one hand, we are promoting the advancement of technologies. On the other hand, we need to ensure that everyone's basic rights are not violated. Madam Lorraine Finley, Australian Human Rights Commissioner, who traveled from Australia to Taiwan to participate in the forum, once said that the democratic system is particularly dependent on citizens having access to real and truthful information so they can make informed decisions. Although generative AI may raise privacy concerns and concerns about false information, even threaten the core value of the freedom of speech. However, I believe that as a democratic and free country, Taiwan need to bravely address the challenges posed by generative AI to human rights. We should not avoid these challenges. So back to Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which clearly states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. This is our common belief and goal. I believe that the development of AI should be based on human dignity. And the goal should be addressing the free development of a personality and ensure that the basic rights of individuals are fully respected and protected in the application of AI. So again, I'd like to thank Madam Lorraine Finley for traveling from afar. I'd also like to thank all the representatives from the foreign agencies based in Taiwan. I'd also like to thank you all for your participation. I know you are our good friends who pay close attention to human rights protection in Taiwan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chen Xu, for your opening remarks. If I may kindly ask Madam Chen to stay on the stage, and I'd like to invite our guests to join Madam Chen on the stage to have a group photo.
Join us in the group photo. Welcome. 好，紧接着呢，还要欢迎蔡崇义副主委也加入我们的合影当中，有请。那么这边也邀请我们几个外馆的代表，首先是有 Miss Ferguson， 还有 Miss Ghani、Miss Bates。Please join us on stage for a group photo. Welcome。我们非常感谢今天有我们外国的朋友们一起来到我们现场。好，那么同时呢，好，请小心您的步伐。也要邀请我们现场呢台湾国家人权委员会的委员们也一起来到台前，哇，我们非常感谢。好，请小心各位的步伐。Thank you very much for being here。好，我们请委员们来到台前。好，也包含我们监察委员也一起，我们两位监察委员也欢迎加入。我们人数比较多，可能要稍微往中间集中。那么紧接着要邀请的是我们今天的报告人，还有语坛嘉宾，我们的侯一修秘书长有请我们今天的报告人，还有我们第二排，我们今天所有的语坛讲者们也一起来到我们合影的第二排当中，欢迎。好，我们今天人数比较多，要请各位稍微往中间集中，确认露出您的脸庞。好，我们请摄影人员看一下画面哦。我们第二排的来宾请插空档，确认露出您的脸庞。好，没关系，我们稍微有插空档也可以。这边会稍微比较拥挤一点点，是不是？好，如果有几位贵宾可以稍微来到我们的左侧的话，比较多空位。Thank you so much. Please bear with us as we're trying to look for a wonderful picture here. 好，我们请看向前方 ，Please look forward into our camera and smile. 1, 2, 3。我们请看向前方。非常感谢各位贵宾今天共襄盛举，一同和我们人权同行 ，AI 无虞。好，我们再来一张，1、2、3。好，谢谢，我们掌声感谢台上所有贵宾。Thank you all for your participation today. Please return to your seat. 谢谢，我们感谢今天所有莅临现场的贵宾，有我们外馆的代表们，还有我们现场所有的委员，以及待会要带来精彩演讲、精彩。
I'd like to thank all the representatives from foreign agencies based in Taiwan and all the moderators and presenters. We're now proceeding to the first session of this morning. The topic of this session is AI and human rights risks. In this session, we will talk about the risks posed by AI on human rights, especially when it comes to algorithm bias and how human rights are being threatened by these potential risks. And later, we will also have Madam Lorraine Finley from Australian NHRC to share with us her presentation. If you are using translation devices today, feel free to put on your devices now.
human rights risks. I'd like to now invite our moderator, keynote speaker, and panelists to the stage. 现在让我们掌声欢迎主持人蔡崇义副主任委员上台入座。Here, please welcome Ms. Lorraine Finlay, Australia's Human Rights. 好，紧接着欢迎我们的语坛人林义成组长，以及罗世宏教授和甘真荣助理教授及兼任研究员。我们有请以上3位语坛嘉宾。
I would also like to ask 3 panelists to join us on the stage. Mr. Lin Yichen, Professor Luo Shihong, and Madam Gan Zhenrong. Without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to Vice Chairperson Cai Chongyi of NHRC. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is such a wonderful event to talk about the hottest topic, which is generative AI. As Chairperson Chen Ju talked about the risks of AI on human rights, we have a Representative Huang who joined us despite his injury, which only shows the importance attached by everyone. We also have, I'm sure you all know how Jensen Huang took Morris Chang to the night market and generated a lot of attention. And if you still remember, there's a video in the States, which is about a robot, which wakes you up in the morning, picks your outfits, makes you breakfast. So when you're ready, you get out. And then when you're home, your door is open, TV is on, your food is made, your hot bath is prepared. Such a wonderful scenario, right? But what about the risks? If you remember the movie by Will Smith, which is about the threats of robots. In the movie, the robots develop their own wisdom, their own cognition, and impose risks on human beings. And NHRC is concerned about the development of AI, even though AI has brought a lot of convenience to us. But what about the damages that it may cause to human rights, especially to those less advantaged? We need to talk about the harms and the risks there. Today, we're focused on AI's risks on human rights and the impact on our day-to-day lives. In our judicial system, we always talk about human rights protection and facts discovery. That's the two ends of a equilibrium. And we also need to talk about AI on the one hand and human rights on the other. Those are on the two ends of the equilibrium as well. So while we're developing AI, we need to think about how to ensure proper algorithm and accurate collection of data without compromising privacy and personal data and human rights. While we are making developments, how do we ensure that we offer protection to the disadvantaged populations? These are things that we have to pay attention to. And last year, we visited Australia, and we were very well received by many Australian friends. When we visited AHRC, there's a lot of commissioners gave us a lot of advice and shared with us a lot of experience, especially Madam Lorraine Finlay, who shared all her knowledge with us. And we're very honored to have her join us in the forum. When we invited her, she just said yes without hesitation. So thank you so very much. Let's give her a round of applause. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you Madam Lorraine Finlay to share with us her views. She's a renowned lawyer and a scholar. She has an in-depth study in human rights protection, and she's very knowledgeable in a variety of human rights topics. So without further ado, Madam Finlay, please.
Well, good morning to you all. I am absolutely delighted to be able to join you in person for what is a very important forum today, and would like to extend my warm thanks to the National Human Rights Commission of Taiwan, with special thanks to your chairperson, Chen Chu, whose introductory remarks I would wholeheartedly agree with. I would like to extend a special thanks to the commissioners, the ones who I was so privileged to meet when they visited us in Australia. It's lovely to see you all again, and the ones who I've met for the first time here in Taiwan. And I'd like to extend a special thanks to all of our speakers and guests today, and in particular, a special acknowledgement of Mr. Robert Ferguson, the Australian representative of the Australian office, for being here today. It was really wonderful to have the National Human Rights Commission Taiwan come to visit the Australian Human Rights Commission earlier this year, because it was a symbol of the friendship that's growing between our institutions and the cooperation that is possible between human rights institutions around the world. And it's particularly important for us to strengthen that friendship and to grow that cooperation for two key reasons. The first is that the shared commitment that we have to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and to human rights around the world is increasingly finding itself challenged. That means more than ever, those of us who believe in universal human rights and in democracy need to work together to ensure that the promise of the Universal Declaration is actually delivered and that people around the world are treated with dignity and with respect. But the second reason that cooperation and friendship between national human rights institutions is so important is because many of the key human rights challenges that we face can't be met by any of us on our own. We have to work together to meet those challenges because they're challenges that extend beyond borders. And artificial intelligence is one of those challenges. The human rights risks that I'm going to talk about today aren't risks that any one country, any one group can address on their own. They're things that we need to work together to address and to ensure that human rights are protected. The Australian Human Rights Commission has a long history of engaging in questions of technology and human rights. One example is the Human Rights and Technology Project that was a 3-year national project culminating in 2021 with the release of our final report. What is interesting is that even though only a few years have passed since that report was released, the technology has changed considerably. Generative AI has moved forward exponentially since this work was done. And yet what's really important is the principles that guide our work don't change, even if the technology does. We believe at the Australian Human Rights Commission that technology is essential, but that it has to be fair. We know that AI can present enormous opportunities for all of us, but we also know that it can pose significant risks to our human rights. Our view is that technology has to be employed in responsible and ethical ways, and we need to put human rights at the very centre of all of our discussions about technology. In recent times, we've seen the risks of generative AI highlighted in stark terms by key technology leaders. Some of you may remember Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, saying back in a few years ago that AI poses an existential threat to humanity. Back in 2015, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, said that AI will most likely lead to the end of the world. Both Hinton and Altman were amongst the over 100 AI experts who signed the 22-word statement on AI risk recently that was released by the Centre for AI Safety. And they stated, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. We need to take their warning seriously, and I am concerned about the risks of AI and the serious harm that could occur if we adopt the approach of moving fast and breaking things and proceed without any consideration of human rights. But I want to stress to you today that it's not all doom and gloom, that I am an AI optimist, and like your chairperson, I'm profoundly optimistic and hopeful about the benefits that AI might bring, not only in improving our lives, but in strengthening human rights. When we think about AI, we know that it could bring a whole range of benefits. It can help us solve complex problems. It can boost productivity. It can make us more efficient. It can reduce human errors. And it can help democratise information. We're seeing uses in sectors such as healthcare and education that really highlight the potential of this technology to profoundly impact our lives in really positive ways. So I'm certainly not suggesting today that we should not embrace AI or innovation. Instead, my key message is that we need to ensure that we embrace AI in responsible and ethical ways, with appropriate guardrails in place, and make sure that AI decision-making is transparent and accountable. At the end of the day, we need AI to serve humans, not the other way round. And what we need is to ensure that human impact and human rights are at the very centre of our thinking about AI. Across the world, governments are grappling with the question of how, or even if, the risks posed by AI can be effectively managed. The three key risks that I wanted to focus on today are, firstly, the risk to privacy. Secondly, the risks of bias and discrimination. And thirdly, and this was touched on by your chairperson, ensuring truthful information, and particularly how important this is for democratic societies. These are risks that I think need to be urgently addressed. But if we can do this properly, there are enormous benefits for humanity as a whole. The first of these risks is the risk to privacy. The right to privacy is a cornerstone human right. But the operation of AI may not only facilitate intrusions into our private lives, but it can actually deepen those intrusions in new and profoundly concerning ways. The risk to privacy is exacerbated because AI products have to be trained on large amounts of data, with these data sets often including personal information. This incentivises businesses collecting, storing and processing as much data as possible, which heightens the pre-existing concerns that we have around data collection. One heightened risk that we are very aware of in Australia is the risk of data breaches. And there have been a number of recent examples in Australia of sensitive personal data being collected by organisations but then exposed as a result of cyber attacks. These high-profile data breaches are not only problematic because of the impact on the right to privacy, but they also undermine the trust that the broader public have in digital societies, which has a profound impact. Despite the importance of the right to privacy, many private enterprises who build and deploy large language models like ChatGPT have been reluctant to reveal much information about the data that they use for training those models or that data's provenance. It's also unlikely that these organisations have sought and received permission or paid for the full use of the data that they use to train their AI products. This is most easily highlighted by looking at the examples of artists and creatives in many different countries who are seeking clarity around their intellectual property rights for work that's available on the internet, which appears to have been used as larger data sets to train large language models. What these large language models and AI products more generally seek to do is to understand human patterns of behaviour. And with access to appropriate data sets and AI technology being able to link discrete data points in new ways, AI products can draw conclusions about all aspects of our lives. It's one thing to have AI store and use personal information about me that might be mildly embarrassing. I don't know that I want everybody to know what movies Netflix knows that I watch at home or what songs are on my Spotify playlist. That's mildly embarrassing, but what's more concerning is when we think about the information we provide about our physical health, our mental health, the conclusions that AI could draw about our political leanings, or even our sexual orientation from the information that we provide online. There is a real risk here that our right to privacy will be violated, and that what we could see are human rights being violated on a larger scale and with greater efficiency than ever before. I mentioned before that one of the benefits of AI is more efficient decision-making. That's true. But if that leads to greater efficiency in human rights breaches, that's not such a positive outcome. And so while AI can encourage efficient data-driven decision-making, another thing we need to be aware of is the potential for algorithmic bias. And that arises when automated decision-making produces outputs that result in unfairness or discrimination being entrenched into the decision-making. When an AI tool is trained on data that itself reflects past discrimination, that unfairness will be reflected by the algorithm in its future decision-making. In this way, algorithmic bias can entrench unfairness and result in systematic discrimination. A concrete example of this can be seen in the use of AI for recruitment. Many of you will be familiar with the different AI products that are available to assist in streamlining the recruitment process. So the use of AI tools to recommend the best applicants for a job based on the past hiring data of the company. For organisations that receive hundreds or even thousands of applications for a single job, using this technology has clear advantages. However, there are various serious concerns that using automated decision-making in hiring processes may unintentionally produce discrimination. For example, Amazon used AI software that was designed to review resumes and determine which applicants they should hire. The algorithm systematically discriminated against women applying for technical jobs such as software engineering roles. This was because the existing pool of software engineers at Amazon were mainly men. And when those resumes were fed into the AI tool, it naturally learnt that the best applicants for these types of jobs were men, which meant that when the AI tool was employed, it entrenched existing discrimination and didn't allow for the realisation of human rights and the development of gender equality. While there are technical solutions which can reduce the impact of algorithmic bias, our work, and most notably the 2020 technical paper that the Australian Human Rights Commission produced as part of the Technology and Human Rights project I mentioned before, it's shown that there's no single solution that will solve the problem of algorithmic bias. It's a problem that we need to address through a variety of measures and that we need to continue focusing on, because as AI systems learn and develop, we need to ensure they don't learn and develop in biased ways. Another risk related to bias and discrimination is the risk of automation bias. And this is our natural tendency as humans to trust in the objectivity of machines and their ability to produce perfect outcomes when compared to human judgment. Automation bias is the tendency to use these automated cues or recommendations as a replacement for our own human, vigilant information seeking and processing. This can have really serious consequences, with one example being repeated reports of individuals using a GPS system in their car, such as Google Maps, driving their car into the water because Google Maps tells them to. In those cases, people are replacing their own human judgment for the judgment of machines. And we should never allow that to happen. Another example is the potential presence of automation bias in medical settings, with one conference paper suggesting that oncologists interpreting mammograms had incorrectly accepted system advice in between 33 to 40% of the cases that form part of that study. That can lead to direct harm to patients who don't have the benefit of human judgment on their cases. It's critical that we take a human-in-the-loop approach, which means making sure that there is always a human double-checking and reviewing any decision made by a machine, and a human that has the power to override those decisions if necessary. This is critical to improve accountability and fairness. And yet, automation bias reminds us that simply having a human in the loop isn't itself enough. Individuals who have oversight of AI decision-making need to be trained on the flaws of AI decision-making and need to be encouraged to scrutinise AI outcomes, not to simply blindly accept them, especially where those outcomes can have significant consequences for individuals. Again, if I go back to something I said at the beginning, AI decision-making can be a powerful tool to assist humans. There can be greater efficiencies. We can solve complex problems. It can boost productivity. But at the end of the day, a machine can't be held legally responsible for the decisions that it makes. Only a human being can. And furthermore, there are some decisions that are so significant, that are so important, that they should never be delegated to machines, and they should only ever be made by human beings. The final risk that I wanted to touch on today is the effect that AI will have on the types and the quality of information that we receive. Cautionary tales are emerging with disturbing regularity of AI chatbots hallucinating, producing misinformation, producing biased content, or even engaging in hate speech. Using generative AI means that it is now cheaper and easier than ever before to run mass disinformation campaigns, to reach millions of people with just the press of a button. And when we see the use of deepfakes in ways that cause real harm, particularly to women and children, it raises really profound questions about how do we know that the information we're seeing is truthful? How do we know that what we're seeing is real? How do we distinguish between what's fact and what's fiction? And even more fundamentally, how do we know whether we're interacting with a human being or a machine? These are all important questions, but they're particularly significant for democracies around the world. Because democracies rely on their citizens having both access to truthful information so that they can make informed decisions, but also trust in the key democratic institutions and processes. And if you can't trust in what's real and what's not, it's very hard to have trust in those key democratic institutions and processes. And this is the risk that I think more than any other really reinforces the need for friendship and cooperation between national human rights institutions such as the Australian Human Rights Commission and the National Human Rights Commission of Taiwan, because these are shared challenges that will have profound effects on the strength of democracy around the world. The central question then is, how do we harness the benefits of AI without causing harm and undermining human rights? There are many strategies that we can adopt, but ultimately the answer is to insist that humanity is placed at the very heart of our engagement with AI. We need to develop, deploy and use generative AI technology in responsible and ethical ways. And we need to ensure that fundamental rights and freedoms are protected not only at the end when things have already gone wrong, but actually at every single stage of a product's lifespan, from concept and design through to sale and use. Some technology companies are already doing this to varying degrees. Some governments are engaging proactively with these questions, but far too many are putting things in the too hard basket. And if we don't act now to think about these issues, if we wait until the harm has already been caused, it will be too late. Globally, there are a range of initiatives taking form to address the human rights risks. This includes regulation, such as the European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act, and it also includes soft law approaches, such as the Blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights that was released by the White House Office of Science and Technology, and the executive order issued by President Biden last year. The Australian government has indicated that it will be pursuing specific legislative reform to address gaps in our current regulatory framework, and that it intends to adopt a risk-based approach similar to the proposed European Union Act, with the aim of allowing low-risk AI activities to proceed freely while implementing regulatory burdens on the adoption and application of higher-risk AI activities. In the meantime, recognising that the law necessarily takes longer to develop than the technology itself, the Australian AI ethics principles are attempting to influence the way that AI is used on a macro level in Australia by setting ethical guidelines consisting of 8 principles that AI systems need to meet to be compliant. And those principles are intended to guide our thinking around AI ahead of new laws being introduced. The 8 AI ethical principles are, firstly, human, societal and environmental wellbeing. Secondly, human-centred values. Thirdly, fairness. Fourthly, privacy, protection and security. Fifth, reliability and safety. Sixth, transparency and accountability. Seventh, contestability. And 8th, accountability. A key strategy that the Australian Human Rights Commission believes can assist both governments and businesses that are wanting to use AI in responsible and ethical ways is the effective use of human rights impact assessment tools. And I've mentioned up there the use of HRIA tools, because what these do is provide a framework for thinking about how a new policy, program, product or law will engage with human rights risks and what measures will be put in place to address those risks. One example of this work is the HRIA tool that the Australian Human Rights Commission developed in conjunction with the National Australia Bank, or NAB. And last year we published an open source HRIA tool for the use by banks who use AI decision-making tools. The HRIA tool can be found on our website, And it's a really positive example of the type of collaborative approach that we need to address these risks. We need human rights experts to talk with technology experts. We need government to talk with business. We need to produce guidance that isn't only grounded in human rights law, but that's practical and accessible and easily understood. The HRIA tool is open source, it's freely available, and it's designed to integrate with existing business processes. That's really important because it's not designed to put an additional burden on business, it's designed to work with business. It highlights the fact that protecting human rights doesn't put the brake on innovation and growth. Protecting human rights is actually smart for business and productivity. So in conclusion, there's a lot of work ahead of us. While engaging with AI can bring significant benefits, we need to ensure that AI is developed in responsible and ethical ways to address the risks that we've been speaking about already today. AI itself is neither a friend or a foe. It's a tool, and it's a tool that has the potential to significantly improve our lives, but also a tool that, in the wrong hands, can facilitate serious human rights abuses. So the key message that I want to leave you with today is that we have to continue emphasising the importance of human rights and human beings being placed at the heart of our engagement with artificial intelligence. And as it says on the screen, we need to make sure that technology serves humanity and not the other way around. Thank you again for having me join you today. It's a privilege to be here with you, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing our discussion throughout the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Finley. Wonderful speech. Thank you. I'd like to invite you to take a seat on the stage. 我们这边再一次邀请主持人以及我们3位与谈人也可以准备一起来到舞台上就坐。有请。
因为今天那个时间的关系，而且也非常的精准，我们有3位重量级的与谈人。第一位，请坐。
I would like to invite the first panelist, Mr. Yichen Lin, who is the section chief of Personal Data Protection Committee. He has been working and involved in digital data protection for many years. The second panelist is Professor Shihong Luo. I'm sure you are quite familiar with him. He's not only a professor at National Zhongzhen University, he is also the chairman of a Fact Check Center of Taiwan. So Professor Luo has an in-depth analysis of media use. The third panelist is Professor Zhenrong Gan from Donghai University. She would like to touch upon data governance and AI governance. And she also works as a researcher or a fellow at the National Council of Science and Technology.
Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am the Division Chief of the Preparatory Office of the Personal Data Protection Commission. And today I will discuss AI applications and how they are related to protection of personal data. Our office was created last year, and we focus on the protection of personal information, how personal data is defined and used. My outline is as follows. I will mention privacy risks in AI applications, causes of privacy violations, mass data scraping, and some examples. First of all, we understand that AI system is a machine-based system. When it is deployed, it can learn on its own, it can adapt, it can make decisions that may impact our environment. So there are 4 risks that follow the use. The first risk is malicious use. may be used in bioterrorism or for surveillance by the states. The second risk is AI race. Among government or companies, everybody is in the AI race. So some automated warfare may happen, or there could be raw decision making. The third type of risk is organizational risk. That is to say that organizations do not have deep understanding of the use of AI, and therefore some harm is caused within the organizations. The fourth risk is rogue AI. AI may be trained to be out of control of humanity and causes damages. AI, when learning on its own, it continues to optimize itself and continues to learn human behavior and therefore lead to bias. So if we focus on the risk of privacy, we see that what we need to do is protect fundamental rights to ensure that our system is safe, transparent, traceable, non-discriminatory, and environmentally friendly, and it can be explained. Therefore, in the legal framework, it has to be clearly defined. There should be limitations, and such limitations need to be implemented. And in data collection, application planning, and data learning, there should be privacy by design and default. So these are the four reasons that may lead to violations. The first is a lack of transparency and unpredictability of large language models. It's a black box. Nobody can see through it. The second cause is sources of personal data collection and processing are very wide. Then AI may learn from text, audio, and video. There are so many sources, and such sources include much personal data. So the third cause is the risk of re-identification of personal data, and therefore lead to violation of privacy to individuals. The fourth cause is misuse of sensitive personal data. Misuse or improper use means applications such as deepfake that may facilitate crimes in our society. This is at the Global Privacy Assembly in 2023, and countries joined the GPA, issue a joint statement. And the TikTok, Facebook, I think there are 6 technology giants that need to follow the 6 principles. The first principle is that even though the information is online, it still should be protected. And the second, social media companies and website operators are obliged to protect personal information on their platforms from illegal data scraping. They need to monitor scraping activities. There should be rate limiting, and they need to identify suspicious IPs activities. And the fourth principle is that in many jurisdictions, large-scale data scraping involves personal information, and that may constitute reportable data breaches. So from the national level, a large collection of data may lead to significant issues and therefore need to be reported. And the next principle is on the individual level. Individuals should read privacy policies. They should develop their own awareness of their privacy. In Taiwan's Personal Data Protection Act, there are 3 aspects which are relevant to AI. And the first aspect is specific purpose of public data collection. So it's for non-government organizations. If they want to collect personal data, they have to meet certain requirements, and some information must not be collected. The second aspect is data subject consent and rights. In Taiwan's Personal Data Protection Act, individuals have to be informed that their information is collected and the privacy has to be protected. So the subject may request to inquire or to remove his or her personal data. The third aspect is data security maintenance and response mechanism. In Taiwan's Act, there are several articles regulating organizations, as there should be security measures and data breach response plans for AI development. The subject need to be informed if their data is leaked, and government agencies also need to be notified in case of data breaches. These are some guidelines in Taiwan. So National Science and Technology Council back in 2019 already issued a soft guideline. Well, in Taiwan, these guidelines are mostly soft, but the National Science and Technology Council is developing an AI Act. And of course, AI has a lot to do with finance, digital affairs, and transportation. So these ministries also have their own guidelines. Now I want to focus on generative AI, which is the topic today. There are several aspects we can focus on. First of all, training with publicly available personal data. So companies that create LLM, well, before they build the model, they have to take preventive measures to protect people's privacy. So companies need to avoid personal data duplication and prevent AI models from using personal data. So that's the management at the source of the data. And then even though the data is entered into the model, the identification needs to be implemented, the duplication as well. When the data is already in the model, there should be a mechanism to remove such data to ensure that the model is cleaned and it does not violate personal privacy. The second aspect is handling user input prompts. When people use an AI, the operators of AI have ethical committees who will review whether or not the prompts are ethical or not. So there are reviewers within the companies that examine the prompts. They review the cues and the output of the AI to see if they're unethical, and they may make adaptation. But some users are not aware of how they should input their prompts. They may input their own emails, or they may input business proprietary data into the AI without knowing that such data may be used by the model in the future. When such data is part of the model, the data may be leaked. The third aspect is effective processes for resolution and remediation of model vulnerabilities. It means that in LLM or among LLM operators, the data they use may be used again by the downstream innovative companies. They may add more value to the data and use it or reuse it. These downstream companies may use open source programs, and that, of course, lead to the risk of data leak. So the companies need to inform their users, saying that if you input such data, our reviewers may see it. So your data after it is input is not really protected. But after we review the data, as responsible corporations, we will delete your personal data. So such a notification needs to be provided to the users. Also, large language models can be easily duplicated or become open source software. So if there are any leakages, it needs to be mediated immediately. And service providers need to provide access to their users, meaning that the users know what personal data is in the model, and the users should have a mechanism to report that I want to delete my personal data, and the companies need to guarantee that they would do that. Finally, well, after mentioning the three aspects or the three measures we can adopt, there are other extra principles that we can follow. These are also the trends that are being formed. For example, we need to have good control of the source of the data. Malicious data should be excluded. For example, information from porn websites, from health forum, or social media information used by minors, or family history sites or website containing extensive personal data should be excluded from the source of data. And there should be, there are technical measures that can crawl the websites and collect the data, and there should be some guideline that they follow. For example, if some websites state that they forbid the crawlers to scrape the information, that the crawlers shouldn't do that. And there should be a measure to exclude certain personal information, and to ensure that individuals have the opt-out right to remove the personal data or to stop their data from being collected. And data collection should be limited to freely available data and specific openly data, and ensure that personal information such as their social media posts need to be excluded. Some companies want to use that information to train their model, but some countries such as EU countries are opposed to such practices. And anonymization or pseudonymization measures can be used. Also, after data is collected, there should be the identify measure. Lastly, I think when manage AI risk, there are hard laws or soft guidelines. But this framework should always address the risk. There should be a framework first, and then under the framework, we are able to cater to the details. And privacy is part of risk management. It's not all, but it's a very important part. Also, AI or other technologies, when they're introduced, there should be designed by privacy, and they should adhere to data minimization principle. So after all these, in the future, we want to continue to develop AI and strike a balance between AI development and human rights. I will conclude here. Thank you very much.
玉成组长的分享。
Thank you very much, Mr. Lin. Last year, Taiwan suffered so many misinformation attacks. So we will later on learn about cognitive warfare from the next speaker.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This topic is assigned to me by the organizer, and I finished the topic with a question mark. And the answer is yes. The question is generative AI a weapon for cognitive warfare? Before the availability of generative AI, we are already familiar with cognitive warfare, which may happen in a variety of aspects, whether it's political, financial, economical, or even in the love or romance scenario. There might be fake fake tools, or to fool us, or to give us hyper real content to achieve the goal of the con-man, and the benefits or the interest might be generated. And President Biden was interviewed by TV station ABC, and he was asked whether he was willing to accept independent cognitive testing. President Biden said, I've been being tested every day. What he said was truthful, and it is the same for everyone. What's in our head, is our thinking rational or logical? We are being tested in the modern society. And when it comes to opinions or truth, or what is real, what is fake, what is malicious, what is not, these are becoming intertwined parts in our modern society, and that is part of cognitive warfare. If we give a broader definition to cognitive warfare. Let me first introduce myself. I am a professor at National Zhongzhen University. I'm also chairperson of a Taiwan Fact Check Center, and Mr. Lai Diming, who is also present in the audience, is one of the co-founders of Fact Check Center. So he needs to be responsible if Fact Check Center is not doing good. Let's look at the development of AIGC. As our keynote speaker, Lorraine, talked about the risks. There are benefits and there are pitfalls and there are risks and etc. So there are pros and cons, and it is inevitable. We have to coexist with AIGC, and we need to mitigate the risks and harms. In terms of communication, we are encountering a variety of information types. There's video, audio, data types. There's multimedia. And as AIGC is playing a ever more important role, the benefit is that we're getting very good quality. For example, there might be information that is truer than the truth, and it's generated very fast. If it is used to generate fake information, it is very efficient, but it's very difficult for us to clear the rumor. So if you look at the benefits, for example, quality improvement, authenticity, or it's even better quality than the products generated by human beings, and improved efficiency, there are corresponding challenges. For example, issues about copyright, fraud, and ethical issues and supervision issues, especially when we talk about deepfake, as Lorraine also talked about, which might be used to create misinformation or disinformation. For the con man, they may employ the most advanced technologies. So based on large language model plus the personal data and information input, generative AI knows your pattern, knows your habits. They might be able to produce information that is compelling to you. All the information that we see is different. Everybody is seeing different information. And with the latest technology, we are easily influenced. Even though we always believe that it is someone else that is being influenced. So this is the third person effect, and we are the third person. And for Taiwan, as well as for the globe, this has giving us a pretty big challenge. And let's look at deepfake and its impact, especially in the political arena. And this year is the largest election year ever. We're already seeing fake audio, fake video, and fake photos used in the campaign. We're very fortunate. We had the election at the beginning of 2024. And at the survey center, we had some videos or audio recordings made by deepfake, but it was easy for us to debunk and to prove that those were fake information. That was not too difficult for us, but I can predict, even though it's just less than 1 year, by the end of the year, there will be a lot of advanced deepfake technologies. And there might be people being affected and even impacting the result of the election. So as our keynote speaker mentioned earlier, this is a very high risk. And it also might threaten personal privacy and safety, and even fake pornographic videos may be generated because of a deepfake. And I'd like to give you a case in China. There's a Ukrainian YouTuber who showed her videos publicly online, and her videos are exploited by some Chinese people. They use her videos to train machine learning, and there's a lot of deepfake generated videos. So she's a real person. Her name is Olga. And in China, she has more than 20 identities with different names. And she's Russian herself. And in China, she speaks fluent Chinese with a little bit of a Russian accent. And she presented as a woman who is eager to marry a Chinese man. She doesn't want any dowry. And Olga, she doesn't know that there's so many her or so many of hers in China in different identities. It was until one day that she was told, and she was very mad by learning that she has so many videos. And in those fake videos, she thanked the Chinese government for thanking the Russian government for supporting, thanking the Chinese government for supporting Russia. And when there's no one supporting Russia's invasion, the Chinese government supports Russia. And she thanks the Chinese government for doing that. Here's a video that you can find on YouTube. That is Olga debunking her false identity. And these identities or false identities look very, very real. Nothing unusual about it, even though there are a variety of identities for different purposes, but mostly this is a different Olga speaking Chinese. Here, I'd like to share with you a new research done by Bloom and NewsGuard. They did a study about the false narrative. So here's the backdrop. Russia claims that there are some soldiers from NATO who joined the war, and there are casualties. So some NATO soldiers were killed, and their bodies were shipped back home, including French soldiers. There's videos, audios, and photos about those, and they are widely spread on the internet. Or some fake news stations are spreading this information. So some fake news stations, they use AI technologies to generate and update and draft news stories. They even arrange false audience to have engagement, to interact with the stations, so they appear to be a real news station. And these stations spread false information. For example, NATO soldiers joined the war, and there are a lot of casualties. So this kind of false information wouldn't generate any benefits except for Russia. However, to prove that it is related to Russia or it is initiated by Russia, you need more evidence. But some of the evidence does indicate that this false information came from Russia. There's data. There's a variety of contents being shown on these websites or forums or social media platforms. There's a lot of misleading photos and data or manipulated photos. Of course, the official agencies, for example, the French government would clarify, or NGOs for fact check would come out and then verify that these are false information. These are helpful for the general public to discern that this is a false information. But I'm not sure about the audience who already saw the false information or being affected. Are they able to change their understanding or change their cognition by looking at the clarification from these agencies? And these are corresponding measures, whether there's AI or not. When it comes to the differentiation of truthful and false information, because of our human nature, we usually hide in our own sounding board. We don't interact with the people in other or in different sounding boards. And what we can do is we need to improve media literacy to strengthen fact check. We also need international cooperation because false information travels without boundaries. So we need international collaboration to share know-hows and technologies, and there has to be cross-platform strategies. Social medias also play critical roles here. Fact Check Center of Taiwan, just like other fact check centers, is using AI tools as well. AI is good in creating rumors. To fight against those false information generated by AI, we need to rely on AI tools as well. So generative AI is already helping fact checkers, and Taiwan Fact Check Center is also working very hard to catch up with the use of technology. We also look forward to more support from the civil society. If you see any information, please always ask yourself, is this information truth or false? We need a lot of public education, including AI literacy. This is not just about traditional media literacy or internet literacy. We need to have AI literacy. How do we train our eyes? When you see content generated by AI, you will be alert, and you would engage in fact check to look at a variety of information sources. On the website of Fact Check Center of Taiwan, we offer a variety of training materials to help you differentiate fake videos or false photos, or there are or contents generated by deepfake apps, including these fake photos. I think my time is up, so thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Professor Low, for your sharing. Do we still believe our eyes? I think from the Anderson incident in the US, this has become a very important topic in governance. So we would like to have Professor Gan to talk to us about the ethics issues with the impact of AI. Professor Gan, please.
Vice Chairperson Tai and Ms. Lorraine Finley, Mr. Lin, Professor Luo, dear participants, good morning. We've heard several presentations by now. Mr. Lin discussed Gen AI and how it may lead to privacy breaches, how we need to provide protection, while Professor Luo said that Gen AI lead to misinformation, and the public and the private sectors need to both do something to respond. And I want to thank the organizer for giving me this time slot at the end of the morning, because Ms. Lauren Finley talked about human rights, and I want to talk about ethics. Should we domesticate some international laws or practices? But before that, we need to raise human rights awareness and discuss what values need to be protected. And that's why I want to talk about defend human rights, access to factual information in the AI era. And I borrow Macy Mai's theory from Harvard University in my presentation. So human rights can be divided into 3 generations since 1970s. The first generation is political rights, and the goal is to protect people's fundamental rights, freedom, autonomy, dignity, and so on. So those are the first generation rights, mostly political rights. In the second generation, we talk about economic, social, and cultural rights. These mean the equality among people in our daily life. Right to clean water, right to adequate housing, right to heating, and so on. Right to our own cultures. These are the second generation human rights. The third generation human rights refer to collective rights, for example, indigenous people's rights, or a ban on human trafficking, women's rights, and gender equality, and so on. So the third generation human rights focus on the rights of collective groups, the groups who are disadvantaged or especially vulnerable. We're not saying that the first generation is over. We are in the third generation. No. The 3 generations are simply 3 categories of human rights. From UDHR, from the 1970s, all the way to now, there are 3 main categories of human rights. Some human rights are still first generation, some are the third generation. Okay, now the challenge we face is that from 1945 up to 2024, or throughout the human history, we're seeing continuous evolution of technological tools. In the past, the tools were dominated by people. For example, how do you want to use this knife? People may use this knife to cut food or to cut people. The refrigerators can be used to store your food or store a body after a bloody murder. So we're seeing all kinds of tools. AI, especially AI based on machine learning, is very good at predicting and making decisions. Through big data, AI is able to find a pattern and make predictions per our request. The information it generates is not entirely from human beings, but the guidance must come from human beings. For example, we give them prompts, and how it interprets information also depends on people. That's the old tools, but now the generative AI is able to generate information, and their outputs may exceed human expectations or control. For example, ChatGPT may out of nowhere say something offensive. And in October last year, we asked ChatGPT about our national holiday. It gave a wrong answer, so it's out of control. That's how much the technology has advanced. So Professor Max from Harvard University said that we have the epistemic rights. That's the 4th generation. There are many other 4th generation rights in addition to epistemic rights, but Professor Max believes that epistemic rights should be included in 4th generation to be protected. So the Professor Rice said that in the digital age, individuals have the right to determine the construction of their knowledge and explore the possibilities of information flow. We should have the right to choose how to process, how to access such information. It's true for individuals and for groups. So the right holders may be individuals or a group of individuals. And as right holders, what individuals want to get, or what groups want to get, or what individuals want to be known, it's something we need to discuss. For example, EU has a measure saying that people have the right to be forgotten. And that has a lot to do with what Mr. Lin said. What personal information of a group or of an individual is to be known. So people should have the right to control, and before that control, of course, we need to control the source. So giving consent is important, and the right to control of such personal data is important too. And the purpose of such right is to ensure that humans can act as epistemic agents. We should exercise human intelligence, according to Professor Rice. We talk about human rights, so the subjects are humans, that's for sure. But from 1st to the 4th generation, we care about the collective human intelligence. Technologies have advanced because of human intelligence. So the results of human intelligence should be protected and valued. In the future, in addition to Gen AI, or as Vice Chairperson Tai said, maybe the robot, the android, can help us with every little thing in our daily life. Right, in the future, there may be artificial intelligence, artificial robots, and they're very good at doing all kinds of things. When they start to compete against human, we need to protect the results of human intelligence. And we need to protect the results from our interactions. So human beings are epistemic agents. And I think there are different roles, individual roles or collective roles. We are individual knowledge objects. We're also collective knowledge objects. So there are 4 different roles: individual subject, collective subject, individual object, and collective object. For the 4th generation of human rights, there needs to be a framework of epistemic rights, because the result of human intelligence includes so many people and things, not only a genius such as Einstein, but including you and me. And we are having this forum because we want to have interactions that may give rise to much more innovation and a clearer direction as to what our future should be at. So interaction between human beings are still very important. It should be included in the framework. And then the rights and responsibilities of epistemic right holders means that when we have rights, we have obligations. So the rights in the digital age should be protected. National government or the international community or each one of us should have our respective obligation. because we have our respective rights, because we are challenging power structures, because the digital age is dominated by tech giants. In this short presentation, I want to point out that, well, following what Professor Rice said, I believe that there is right to information, but I want to highlight right to access factual information. That is to say, individuals or groups have the right to seek truth. That is to say, we have the protection and the guarantee that we can access truth and real information or true information. When we talk about truth or false, it's decided by the individuals, and states or the international community need to provide protection or guarantee to ensure that we can access factual information, or to guarantee that there is a good infrastructure for factual information. So again, there are individual and collective right holders, and the purpose is to ensure that epistemic actorhood has access to factual information. Human rights are our priorities, of course, and all the human communities in the world need to ensure that there is such a right. So there should be collaboration between government agencies and between states. And the tech companies need to have self-discipline. So YouTube now requires creators to disclose when realistic content was made with AI. I think this age moves us from post-truth to post-fact. And I want to give you an example. The previous two speakers mentioned deep fake technologies. It produces something that is fake information, false information. So we can divide information into, well, to the left, not malicious, to the right, malicious, to the top, real information, to the bottom, virtual or unreal information. Now, softwares are able to produce all kind of fake information. For example, saying that Pope has said this, or Pope has worn this, but it's not real. Something may be virtual, but it's for fun, it's for entertainment. Something is real, it's not malicious. For example, the two presidents are scolding each other. But has such information be given consented to be generated by the persons themselves or by their family members? Is it necessary to require such consent? I think there's room for discussions. And deepfake videos sometimes are malicious. They attack democracy. And such generated image, maybe images of minors, is it legal or illegal? I think different countries have different regulations and definitions. So there's a big question mark, and it needs to be discussed further. So to protect right to access factual information requires us to discuss why it is important, because some information is really difficult to be discerned, its truthfulness. It means that we may lose all of our trust in information, and that's going to erode democracy. I think democracy's core elements are not only majority rule or a representation, but public participation. Okay, I'll finish in 1 minute. A Vice Chairperson Tsai mentioned that we need good information to engage with public affairs, and such information has to be reliable. So is it a threat to freedom of speech. Well, in fact, freedom of speech excludes defamation, privacy breaches, or personal information leaks. And the international community and countries around the world need to safeguard channels, infrastructure for information access. So in the AI era, ensuring access to factual information is paramount. And we are not saying the government need to tell us what is true or not, but they need to guarantee that we have the channels or infrastructure to access factual information. It's necessary for individuals to make the decisions based on the factual information. So through all of these, we'll be able to protect the trust between people in our society. Thank you very much. I would like to invite all the speakers and the vice chairperson to conduct the panel discussions.
做了以后有请你们离开哈。现在我们
My apologies if I can kindly invite the panelists to join us on the stage again. We would like to open the floor for Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your questions to our speakers and panelists. And I specifically named one of the audience, so please do share your comments or questions. So the floor is open. I've already prepared some questions for discussion, but I'd like to open the floor first. Mr. Dai, please, Commissioner Dai. Since I was named, I have a question that is related to all three panelists. Mr. Lin, you talked about personal privacy. We now have Facebook. There's a lot of posts. All the posts, I think, are used to train AI models. So what can we do in Taiwan? In European Union, there is a Digital Service Act. Sometimes when I'm searching on Google, I would use private mode or cognito mode so as to avoid being tracked. But sometimes when I try to search for information, I am not able to use this cognito mode. And in April, we went to the UK. When we had the conversation with the BBC, the biggest concern in Taiwan is how do we trust the media? This just echo to Professor Gan's talk about factual information. We talked about legislation, but I don't know how to draft a law to protect us, to ensure that we get factual information, because there's so much fake information. If we only rely on the fact check center, I don't think it's enough. And Professor Liu talked about data governance, which is important. But in Taiwan, how do we address this? So I very much look forward to Professor Liu's presentation this afternoon. All my questions can echo with Lorraine's talk about truthful information. Lorraine talked about the three risks. The third one is truthful information. So these are the things that we have concerned about in Taiwan. Which one would like to start, Professor Low or? Thank you so very much for your questions. First up about Facebook. I think it was in May that Facebook announced that for Europe and the UK, for users in those jurisdictions, they would use their data to train AI model to better their services. And the purpose of use was to address a legitimate benefit. And back then, there were a lot of discussions. The competent authority back then was trying to block it. It is required for the user to check for their privacy status. So such mechanism is required to be provided. But it proves that this kind of a mechanism is not sufficient, because there's a clause saying that even though you raise your request, Facebook doesn't have to agree to your request. So there's a controversy that not only in European Union, but also in other countries, I believe that people are trying to do better to block it. So this is my response to your question regarding Facebook. Thank you, Commissioner Lai, for your questions. I'd like to first share with you that our topic today is a critical one and a timely one. Fact Check Center in Taiwan, almost every day, I'm sure it'll be the same in the future. Every day in the future, we will see fake information generated by AI. For example, there is Mona Lisa being transformed into a lively animation, which is lovely, which is a lovely animation, but it's not a official video of the Olympic organization. So it's not harmful to the general public per se. And a few days ago, there's a rare white dolphin at the coastal area of North Carolina. And after fact check, we know that it was generated by AI. It was not harmful either. On July the 8th, there's a AI generated video. Our former president, Madam Ing-wen Tsai, who shared her insight about investment, how to make 20,000 NT dollars per day. I think it's, not a big amount. I'm not sure if anyone would fall for that, but what if it was Cao Xingchen, Morris Chang, or some famous investment experts in Taiwan? We might fall for that. And people may complain that, why am I not being generated by AI in those fake videos? So on a day-to-day basis, we encounter a lot of fake information, some of which might be more or less less harmful, some of which might be very, very harmful. So Fact Check Center may not be able to play the role as a gatekeeper. So that's definitely a challenge of ours. And a fact checker is here to compensate the insufficiency of news media. When reporting on a story, the news agencies need to do fact checking. And we know that there's a lot of information that is that is generated by self-media or unknown sources. If there is quality media sources that we can trust, when you see bizarre information, you can then verify to see if such information is being reported by BBC or CNN or public news station in Taiwan. If you cannot find such information being reported on those trustworthy platforms, then you can say that the information might be false. In the future, quality information sources may not have sufficient resources to fact check. And there might be a lot of misleading information. So, for example, correction afterwards or apology afterwards might be necessary. And how do we ensure that that the news or legit news sources have sufficient resources to fact check? We want quality information, but who to provide those quality information? And it costs money to provide quality information. Is it a cost being borne by the media? If you look at the business model of the media, for example, the advertisements are now with Meta or with Google. And many of the media agencies are not able to make profits. And now they need to bear the responsibility of checking fact. I don't think it's fair. So how do we discern who is quality media and to support them with public resources or private donations? I think Europe provides us with a very good example, but these ideas might be strange to us when we think about using public money to sponsor quality media. We would feel that, oh, you are manipulating the media. But now we're in AIGC era, or the era of post-fact. We need to have a mechanism to gatekeep. Otherwise, we will be compromised. I think the biggest loss is we might compromise the development of democracy. I think it is everybody's responsibility to work with quality media and quality agencies to guard our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to add one comment, if I may, about the question of misinformation, disinformation, and fact-checking, because I think fact-checking is incredibly important, and I've spoken about the risk to democracy of not having access to truthful information. But at the same time, we also need to recognise the importance of freedom of expression and making sure that in trying to protect ourselves against fake news, we don't risk shutting down robust discussion and debate, which is incredibly important in a democracy. And one of the risks in terms of misinformation and disinformation laws is defining truth in a way that pretends there is one single truth on any issue and no need for further scientific exploration or discovery or for different opinions. So, for example, years and years ago, it was the accepted truth that the Earth was flat. If we had laws that refused to allow us to think about different opinions, different scientific discoveries, moving knowledge forward, we would be in a very different place today. So I think we do need laws to protect against misinformation very clearly, but we need to make sure those laws themselves have transparency and accountability built around them so that we can make sure we leave space for freedom of expression and for the development of knowledge, because truth sometimes isn't as easy to draw a clean dividing line between what's true and what's false. And so we need to be very careful in terms of making sure our laws are very well defined, but also very transparent and accountable in terms of how they operate.
OK， 好，现在那个赖委。
Thank you, Commissioner Lai, for your questions. To address the era of AIGC, I don't think one policy can address them all. If you look at the past institutions or systems, we can learn definitely. For example, from the label or information on the label of food items, or the drug administration by Ministry of Welfare and Health. We can require AI vendors. For example, if you look at the European Union, there is requirement to disclose the properties of the model and the purposes of the models. So it's very simple, similar to labeling on the packages of food items. Or if the packaging is not enough, to echo Professor Low mentioned earlier, on social media, there's a lot of false information or misinformation. We cannot define whether it's disinformation or not. We can say that it's a manipulation of information. So it's partially true. So for that kind of a situation, in recent years, we are concerned about the false accounts to spread information. So on social media, they need to work with the government to label or to bring that information off shelf. And if we can learn from the management or administration of healthcare related products, for example, you can shelf the shampoo or tissue paper, but then if the product claims that it has whitening effect, then you have to verify afterwards. And there's different levels of risks for these care products. I think we also need to have these risk assessment for AI products as well. There are different levels, but then we can, if initially it's a low risk, we have certain criteria, but then if later we found them to be higher risk, we then apply more stringent requirement or regulation. I don't think there is a clear-cut way or one policy to address all, but we can use a variety of aspects of policies. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can definitely borrow systems that are already in place in healthcare or in drug management that we can refer to. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, I would like to move to Commissioner Yue.
I have two questions. My first question is for Ms. Finley, because the Ministry of Justice is now announcing we are going to have an Anti-Discrimination Act. So in your experience, in your institutions experience, there are human rights violations that need to be regulated by laws. So please share with us what are violations which are serious human rights violations and need to be included in the law, especially in anti-discrimination law. Second question for Professor Gan. You talk about the fourth generation of human rights, and we need to protect people's right to access factual information, to stop the monopoly of tech giants. And your last slide states that we need to ensure that there are channels and infrastructure for people to access factual information. What's the infrastructure? What's the infrastructure you're talking about? I think there are public sector, private sector, and the NGOs. So this is my question for Professor Gan and for Professor Lin. What's your take on the so-called infrastructure to access factual information?
Thank you so much. And that's a question that I could talk about for the rest of the day, but I know we're short on time, so I'll be very brief. There are two really key things. The first is to ensure that your discrimination law covers all forms of discrimination, so not just aimed at gender discrimination or disability discrimination or age discrimination, for example, but all forms of discrimination, and that it deals with serious harms that are caused, to make it very clear that that is unacceptable in society, that our starting point is all people are equal in dignity and respect. But the second aspect, that's the negative side of discrimination. The second aspect is the positive duty, which we're just starting to develop in Australia, which is the idea that we don't want to wait until discrimination has happened. We want to stop it in the first place and prevent those harms from even happening. So we've started bringing in positive duties to ensure that businesses from the outset are required to put in place systems to actually prevent discrimination and take steps early on to stop the problem from arising. And I think that's where the law can be really powerful, because we don't want to deal with human rights violations after the fact. We want to ensure human rights are protected from the beginning so that people don't have that harm caused to them. Thank you.
OK， 谢谢。来，
Thank you. Mr. Lin. Thank you for your question. To start, I want to say that we are still a preparatory office. Of course, we will have the official statements after the office is officially created. What I can say right now is infrastructure is to ensure the access to factual information. Less officially, there can be voluntary mechanism in the market. That would be great. If the government needs to interfere, or if other mechanisms are required, for example, AI validation measures can be in place. I know that the Institute of Industrial Development has such measures that are being discussed. Professor Gan, I know the time is up. So I'll be brief. Thank you for your question. So channels and infrastructure, like you said, companies, public sector, private sector, and collaboration are important. So if we take disinformation or misinformation, for example, I think the NGOs are doing great in Taiwan. The government can put out laws, and the social media platforms need to put out guidelines. If disinformation is reported, they have to decide what collaborative measures are in place to do it. And for individuals, they need to point out that certain content they generate is created by AI, just like the fake Olympic video that was mentioned by Vice Chairperson. Yeah, as a teacher, we know that people may come late for the class, but we need to conclude the class on time. So if you have further questions, you can submit them in written forms. We will conclude our morning session. I want to thank the 4 speakers for your wonderful presentations.
Moderator and panelists, and also Ms. Finley for a group photo. So I'd like to invite all of you to please come forward to the center of the stage. 我们邀请几位在我们台前合影。好，我们请蔡副主委。好，来，我们先为 I'd like to invite all of our session 1 speakers for a group photo。好，那这边也提醒我们现场来宾，我们下午场次将在1点30分开始，也请现在要离场的来宾稍后要记得准时回到场内。好，我们先看向前方，邀请主委。好 ，a little bit forward, 1 step forward, thank you。可以吗？我们看一下画面。好，请看向前方。1、2、3 ，1、2、3 ，smile。All right, thank you， 谢谢我们，感谢第一阶段的讲者们，谢谢。那么各位来宾，我们今天上午的议程到此告一段落，非常感谢您的参与。我们下午的场次将会在1点30分再度展开。另外呢，我们今天现场的贵宾提醒您，请凭您的识别证到我们的场外，向工作人员可以领取您的午餐餐盒，记得凭您的识别证。另外，如果呢现场的来宾是需要登录
人权应该是人与生俱来的基本权利。
人资讯，再次感谢您，我们下午1点30分见，谢谢。
Thank you.